Host and guest and are not those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. The phone lines are open. Call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU. It's time for Stuart Laser Talk with your host, Dr. Tred J. Rizacker.
I'm 5'10" and 242 pounds.
I always say this is the biggest I'm ever going to be, and I said that like 20 pounds ago.
A third of Americans are obese, another third is overweight.
Obesity is the biggest threat to the health, welfare, and future of this country.
I've always been overweight.
I've got diabetes,
Sleep apnea, heart disease.
everything's hurting now.
It's a lot easier to lose weight than it is to keep weight off.
This is probably going to be the first generation of children who are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
18% of our children right now are obese.
It's not only health, it's about survival and well-being of the United States as a nation.
You don't crave broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac.
I want to think that there's something better for me.
Unless we're able to control this epidemic, we're going to have an abundance of chronic disease.
All of us have to be part of the solution to reduce obesity.
The weight of the nation is out of control, but we can fix that.
If we don't now take this as a really urgent national priority, we are all going to pay a really serious price.
Obesity will crush the United States in oblivion.
Good morning, Stuart, Florida. Good morning, Treasure Coast. And good morning, the world. We're doing a live broadcast right here from the WSTU 1450 AM station. And this is Treasure Coast Talk Radio. And I'm very proud to be here. I'm probably going on 10, 11 years now with this show. It's been wonderful. I'm blessed to have been introduced to this group here. And we've been talking about health and wellness and how today's medical lasers are being used to help you to look better, to feel better, to heal quicker. And in so many ways, light-based therapy is changing the world one photon at a time. And that is what is the basic breakdown of pure radiant energy. Light from the sun are photons. And that's the energy packet which carries the sun's energy into tissues, cells, into batteries. They use photons. And your body is designed to power and to heal itself and responds favorably to photonic energy when it's applied correctly in the right places. Who would have ever thought? So my name is Dr. Tred Rizacker. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I've been in practice for 33 years. My daddy was a chiropractor before me, Dr. Thomas Rizacker. He practiced in New York, Long Island, New York, for you New Yorkers out there that are figured out that this is a better place to live than New York, at least with the lockdowns. I was raised in Long Island, New York. I was born in Massapequa. And then when I was 12 years old, we moved down to South Florida. My mom did. And my mom and dad kind of separated. He stayed in New York. We stayed in South Florida, and then went to Martin County High School. Always wanted to be a chiropractor, just like my dad. And when I was 23 years old, I was in college, and I graduated when I was 29 from the Cleveland College of Chiropractic in Kansas City, Missouri. And I went back to New York at 30 years old, and I purchased my dad's practice. And the house that it was in, it was a 3-family doctor's office in a residence kind of house. That's what they do up in New York. And boy, I learned a lot. I worked with my father for 2 years. He really taught me enormous amounts about health and healing and wellness. And he really helped me so much when I first started out as a young doctor, not really having much confidence, but I had a lot of skills, but not a lot of experience when I was first out. And that was 33 years ago. And now I came back to South Florida in 2003 after 9/11. And it really kind of motivated me after watching the World Trade Center, the smoke in the distance that you could see it from Long Island. I just realized that I really wanted to be back in South Florida. It was my reason to get the heck out of there. And I moved back to South Florida in 2004, approximately. And I opened up a little practice on US 1, where the Bonefish Grill is today. And then it moved into a much larger location within the same facility. And then in 2010, I opened up the Slim Body Laser Spa as a second office with my wife. She a little bit younger than me. She's a very astute businesswoman. She's smart as a whip. And she was like, I want to do a spa. I want to do something in aesthetics. She likes beauty. She's, takes really good care of herself. And I had just started doing this lipo laser, this fat laser. And so we were doing it in the chiropractic office, but then we had this opportunity on East Ocean Boulevard in the old Haagen-Dazs ice cream parlor. The owners of that plaza, the Fatigates that own Carmela's, they had renovated the Haagen-Dazs into a real estate center for a little while. And then those two guys kind of went south on them, and the property was open, and I leased it from them. And that was 11 years ago. And when I leased it, I turned it into a spa. I put a fountain out front. I got rid of the nautical motif, which was dirty and sandy and stuff that you find on the beach hanging on the walls. I cleaned it up and made a nice white fence out front with flowers, and then a very inviting Thai Bali inspired decor, with bamboo and the nice dark woods that you see in a Bali or Thai, representation, and put in 4 treatment rooms, 4 spa rooms, all private, all with nice lighting and controllable, very, very nice inside. We made up a vibration plate area with the whole body vibration plate, a consultation, and then, of course, an area to talk about for plans so you could explain finances in private. Excuse me. And that became the Stewart. Actually, it was called the Stewart Laser Spa until I took a partner, and we called it the Slim Body Laser Spa. And 2 months after my partnership, he separated. He didn't want to do it. So thank goodness, because I don't think he had any idea how successful it was going to be. And that was almost 11 years ago. Over 5,800 to 6,000 clients have been through our doors. And we're actually boasting 100% success rate on all of our clients that come in. Used to not be like that, but with client selection and managing expectations, and also the different techniques that we have available to us to help get rid of stubborn fat and to help tighten loose skin. And, it is something that is, it has to be experienced to be believed. It's something that is very, very effective. But in this world of fake news and, dime a dozen medical weight loss supports and all of these offices that come and go and seem to close down. And, it's a little scary, the whole industry. But at the Slim Body Laser Spa, we're very aware of that. So we have over 350 signed 8x10 testimonials on all of our walls, all the way when you go into the bathroom, down the hallway. They're 4 deep. And, it's incredible when people come in and they see all the testimonials, and they're handwritten by people's own handwriting. They sign it themselves, and there's a picture of their face, not their body parts, of course. And when you come in, you realize that, okay, this probably works because of all of the testimonials. And that's a big leap compared to when we first opened up, when nobody thought it worked, 10, 11 years ago. Now, we were there before Cool Sculpting even existed, before a lot of these centers have opened up. In fact, we've been a hotbed for these procedures because of our success. People want a copycat. And it was hard in the beginning because people didn't laser that you could lose inches without eating less. after 10 years and all of the test people out there that have had results, the realization that it works, I think, is very clear. There's no doubt about that. Now, what people need to know is, does it work for them? Are they a good candidate? Can they get the same results as what they see on the wall? And that is my job, to do that orientation, exactly what the laser can do, what it can't do, to listen to my clients as to what they're really trying to accomplish. What are their goals? Why are they here? And make sure, 100% sure, that the laser in our process can solve their problem. Because if it doesn't, then they're not going to be happy. I'm not going to be happy. We'll have a problem for the whole time they're there. And I will not do that. So as the owner, I see all of the clients. I go through the history. I go through their food. I go through their exercise regimens, what their expectations are. And I kind of try to figure out if they're, normally based people. And if I can, we help them out. They do the laser plan, and they can lose inches. They can lose weight. They can become healthier. And it brings me to my topic today, which is detoxification. Detox. Everybody knows about poisons. Now, if you've just tuned in, my name is Dr. Tred Rissacker, and I'm the owner and the doctor at the Slim Body Laser Spa. We're located here in Stuart on East Ocean Boulevard, and that would be across the street from the Fresh Market. And my phone number is 772-223-5885. It's called the Slim Body Laser Spa, and we have free consultations, always a free consultation. And if you want to try it one time, if you tell them that you heard me on the radio, you can be qualified for that $49 Discovery Day service. And what that means is it's for the first visit. We have a 9-session laser lipo plan. And what it means is you can try the first visit for $49, and then you get to see and touch and see how the laser works. But it is only the first visit of the whole plan. So one visit is not going to make that much of a change. It's not a one visit wonder. It's a 9-session, oh my God, process. But some people just want to try it, and we're okay with that. But they got to, they cover the cost of $49. And then you can try it out for that. So that's what it is. It's a Discovery Day price. And if you want to do the plan and you don't want to, you just want to come in, I'll actually help you with a discount and credit the Discovery Day value to your plan, and you can save a little bit of money there too. Okay. So my name is Dr. Rissacker. You're listening to the Slim Body Laser Spa. My phone number is 772-223-5885. Now, I promised to talk about detoxification. So why is that important to you and I and to people? Well, poisons and toxins are part of life. They exist in nature, toxic plants, rotten eggs, bad clams with bacteria. There's a lot of different poisons out there that occur very naturally. Poisons from chemicals, a lot of different ways that we get exposed. Now, of course, a heavy toxic exposure can kill you. Of course, chlorine gas could kill you. But what happens more often is we get little bits again and again and again and again and again. It's called repetitive toxic persistent organic compounds. That's the term for it. It's called POC, persistent organic compounds. And those would be mainly your petroleum-based products, your fuels, your oils, your paint thinners, because these are organic compounds. These come from the ground in the form of oil, crude oil. And then from crude oil, they make it into all of these different products, plastics and rayon and nylons and different paint thinners, the nail polish remover, the tar that tars all the streets, the black roof shingle tiles, the asphalt. These are organic based compounds which are toxic to you and me and your animals. And we have to live around them. We sleep on them. We put them on our body. Sometimes we even ingest them and eat these organic compounds. We don't mean to, but it's called food coloring, or it's called preservatives when you eat a lot of processed food and they have to put something in it so it has a longer shelf life. Those mostly are petroleum-based products. So is a lot of hair shampoos, a lot of fragrances that you smell, the Febreze, the smell. They actually have fragrances in the stores when you go shopping because you relate nasal smells, you relate that with certain good memories. So what is it? The store, some of the clothing stores, I don't know the exact ones, American Outfitters. I don't shop there anymore. I haven't shopped since the Gap. Okay. And those stores actually have their own patented fragrance that is sprayed into the store. So when you go in there, you remember the store. I think back of the smell of creosote in the Great South Bay in Long Island, New York. I grew up in Long Island, and I used to go crabbing at the docks, and I would fish for the weak fish, and I would fish for the striped bass. And you know, if you've ever been in the salt water up north, you know, the tar that's on those poles that make the docks, that's called creosote. I like the smell of creosote. It reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to go crabbing with my dad at the docks down there in Amityville. And so, but that creosote is poison and it absorbs in your body. You every time you smell something, you absorb it. This is really important to understand. People don't realize they're being poisoned or toxically, you know, persistent poisons. But one of the mechanisms of how you ingest a toxin is you smell it. And in order for your nose to work properly, in other words, for you to recognize a smell, it has to be broken down into the water droplets. It goes into your body, and then your nose can recognize that smell. If you smell it, it's in your body. Now, you know, this could also be something that you apply to the outside of your body, like perfume or cologne or antiperspirant with the aluminum in it that you put under your arms. It was very common, aluminum chlorohydrate, I think it was. There was a lot of people got poisoned from that. Your fillings, mercury fillings, back in my day, in the 60s and 70s, when you had a tooth cavity, they filled it with amalgamated mercury filling. Now, you know, that stuff's toxic. And over the years, if you have a lot of those fillings in your mouth, that can leach chemicals and poisons into your system. You know, there's so many different ways we get exposed to toxins. A big one is from the fossil fuels, from the engines, the cars and the planes and the trucks, and the smell of diesel, the smell of gasoline, the vapors. They go into your bloodstream and they're stored in the body. So are the smell of a diesel truck. If you're living in an urban area like the cities, your level of exposure is like 10 to 100 times more than somebody who's living closer to nature. In South Florida, we're very lucky. We have very clean air here, and that's because a lot of the air comes off the ocean. You know, we have this beautiful Atlantic Ocean that goes all the way to Europe, in case you don't know that. And when the air is blown into, you know, you get these onshore winds, which is a common northeast wind pattern. That air is very clean because it didn't come across the land. It didn't come from a city. But if you live in California and you get offshore winds that blow from the valley and come across, you know, into LA, there's a lot of pollution in that air because of where it's coming from. Same with if you live up north in the Northeast, and the wind switches to be blowing from west to east, you get all the smell from the factories and from the big petroleum plants down in New Jersey. What is that area called? I forget. With all the flames at night, you see the pipes blowing off the methane gas. So to say that we are toxic avengers is an understatement. And then we actually put toxins in our body too. Not only are we exposed to them, not only do they fall from the sky on our skin in the form of soot, we're also actually putting them in our body. And one of the big sources of petroleum-based organic compound poisoning is pharmaceutical drugs. The pharmaceuticals that recommended for your blood pressure and your heart and your blood sugar and your anxiety and your pain, all of these products are made from petroleum. It used to not be that way, but you can thank John D. Rockefeller for that. Back in the when he first developed the oil, 160 years ago. Well, he wasn't back then; it was before that. But as he started to see the value of his petroleum products in the Standard Oil Company, he's the one who really pushed the pharmacological agents to be made from oil-based instead of natural remedies like herbs and natural plant medication, medicines. The late 1800s and the early 1900s was an enormous amount of naturopathic doctors. The doctors of medicine used plant extracts to come up with their medications. And then he's the one who pushed the pharmacological agents to come from oil-based, from fossil fuel-based. And it was a very wise business move for him and his oil kingdom. And today we still carry most of the pharmacological agents that we have and we take and are prescribed to us come from petroleum-based backbone, the fossil fuel. So you're being poisoned. I'm being poisoned. Evan's being poisoned as he looks up. We all are. We can't avoid it. It's ubiquitous with our life. And however, your body has a way of handling toxins. It isn't the first rodeo that's ever come around, the fact that a human got exposed to some toxin. But of the two types of toxins, now listen very carefully because this is important. There's two types of basic toxins that we deal with. There's water soluble and there's fat soluble. Now, soluble means to break it down. So a water soluble toxin is something that can be cleaned away with water. And there's a lot of water in the world. 78% of our body is water. So if you get exposed to a water soluble toxin, your body can handle it, can remove it and get it out of the body very easily and very quickly. Now, what are some water soluble toxins? Well, I know with drugs, recreational drugs, alcohol is a water soluble toxin. If you drink alcohol and you drink a lot of water, you're going to displace and remove the alcohol because it's water soluble. So are certain drugs. The cocaine, water soluble. It rinses away with water, and after several days, it doesn't show up in the urine. Now, there's other drugs that collect in your body, such as marijuana and a lot of the Valiums and opiates. They will show up, methamphetamines. They show up in your bloodstream years later. They're still in your body. So other water-soluble toxins that are more common are bacterias, viruses, poisoning from plant poisonings, lizard tails, rotten clams. Your ancestors have dealt with those toxins since the beginning of time. And their reaction to a clam that's bad is to throw up, is to have diarrhea, is to puke. It's to get a little temperature because maybe there's a little toxin. And if you're lucky enough to survive, and a lot of our ancestors didn't survive, your body heals. It's out of your body in 1 to 3 days, and you're good. It's nowhere, didn't collect somewhere. And now we have the more persistent problem, which is the fat soluble toxins. And the fat soluble toxins basically are toxins which have a petroleum basis to it. fossil fuels. Now, remember that petroleum and crude oil is really plant matter, animal matter, vegetable matter, which at one point we could have maybe eaten as starch. And these vegetable and plant matters, everything died. They got laid in layers in the earth, packed, and then as more layers of dirt were over it, they then, the heat of the earth causes them to break down and to turn into this crude oil. But its basis was from plant life. Remember the one gasoline that had the dinosaur? That was kind of the representation of it. What was that? The dinosaur, and it showed that, because that was to let you know that the gas that we're using came from dead dinosaurs over the years. And so we know that our oil reserves are really forests from prehistoric times, right? You're looking it up? Sinclair was the dinosaur. So fossil fuels, oil, comes from prehistoric forests and areas where there's a whole lot of organic matter that had been compressed, heated, and then turned into what we call crude oil. Yet the starch that you eat when you have a fresh fruit or a fresh vegetable, the starches are similar in their compound as those fossil fuels. They just have less carbons. This is kind of crazy. So a starch has 1 to 2 carbons when you look at a starch molecule. And then a fuel has more than 5 to 6 to 8. And they're named by the number. So propane is a fuel, right? You buy propane, and that means that the pro has 5 carbons attached to it. And then you have hexane, which is another fuel, which means there's 6 carbons attached to it. Now, the fuel that you use in your car is called octane. Oct is for 8 carbons. So the starch that at one point was food for you has been changed to have more carbons, and then it becomes 8 carbons and 9 carbons and 10 carbons, and then it turns into like very powerful fuel, because the more carbons, the more refined it is. So why am I telling you all this? Because your body stores this stuff in its fatty tissue. Your fat, your belly fat, your fat that surrounds your body and your organs is similar in makeup because of the carbons as these fossil fuels and these smells and these things we put on our body. And what happens is when you get exposed to these toxins, they go into your bloodstream, they circulate around, and eventually they're stored into the fatty tissue. So your place where you store these poisons is in your fat and around your muscles, because there's fat around your muscles too. You do not store these toxins in your bloodstream. You do not store them in your bones. Your long bones make the blood cells. It's not stored in the nervous system, like in the cord or in the brain. It's stored in fat. And fat is symbiotic to propane and to these fuels. So this is why, one of the reasons why we have a lot of body fat, because we're being exposed to a lot of these toxins. And in the last 100 years, remember, we discovered oil 160 years ago. That's all. Well, 164 years ago, somebody cracked that pipe. This crude oil came out of the ground, and the guy who found it said, "Remember old Jed, gonna make me a millionaire, the old Beverly Hills hillbilly?" That's how it came out of the ground in Pennsylvania back in 164 years ago. And somebody looked at that and went, I'm going to be rich on this. I'm going to make everything out of this. This is a building block of plastic. This is the building block of asphalt, of paint. I can put this stuff into medicine. I can make medicine out of it. I can make clothing and rayon, nylon, spandex. I can make flame retardant. We could use this stuff to soften ice cream. I can, it just goes on and on. Now we can get rid of these steam locomotives and all this black smoke coming out, and we're going to power it with clean diesel fuel. You get where I'm going with this? This is something which came upon us and has completely dominated you and my body, our ability to process toxins. This is as a result of this. And, they call it affecting the climate also, right? Fossil fuel, carbon goes into the air, smog increases the heat, the sun's amplified, and we have what they feel is global warming as a result of this incredible amount of petroleum-based toxins. And, I don't believe that people on their own create global warming. They don't have the ability to. However, the petroleum companies, the gas companies, and all of these companies that use and pull the oil out of the ground to make all of these substances, they contribute to global warming. So they shouldn't try to depopulate the world. They should really just, again, find cleaner energy sources. And that's what they are doing. But we, humans, our pets, all the creatures that swim and breathe and live in this environment are being poisonally, toxically exposed to these poisons. And some get more toxin than others. It's really important to understand. And where you get your toxins and how often you get exposed has a lot to do with where you live, whether you live in a city area, an urban area close to poisons, or are you out in the countryside with fresh air? Your job, if you're a park ranger and you're driving around getting a lot of fresh air, you're going to have a lot less toxin than someone that works in the distillery, in a fuel plant. If you work with paints, dry cleaning, agriculture, these are jobs which are known to have an enormous amount of toxic exposure. I was driving in my car just a couple of weeks back on Canner Highway, and they were repaving the connection between Bridge Road and I-95. They're finishing up that part. And the Ranger Road Paving Company, which is a huge company in America, they had their whole crew out there and they were laying down the new tar. It was daytime, and when we went around these big trucks that were putting down the new tar, there was about 25 people that were standing around and using their shovels, and one was standing on the machine, the other ones were bringing in the trucks. They were all in a cloud of petroleum smoke. The smell of tar would burn your eyes. And they stood in that, and they followed that big truck behind with their little scrapers, breathing in that stuff. Now, the only protective mask they had on was like a something to cover their face, like a handkerchief. Some of them had the N95 mask on. I didn't see one person in that road crew that had an appropriate breathing mechanism to strain out petroleum-based toxins. And they did that. They do that all day long, every day, sometimes all night long. Yet nobody says anything about that could lessen their lifespan. So I took some pictures of it, but it's not my bone to pick. But I want you to know that where you live and where you work and the type of things you do and how well you protect yourself from these exposures has a lot to do with how you can avoid being sick from it. Now, I was reading an article online about the salmon. Now, everybody loves salmon, right? Do you love salmon? I love salmon. No, Evan doesn't love salmon. I like salmon. Salmon has good omega-3 fatty acids. So they say of all the fish to get, salmon helps you with your heart health and your overall, you need these omega-3s. So I also found out that salmon are one of the most toxic fish that you can eat. And it said specifically in, I think it was Finland and Nova Scotia, that these salmon are more persistent poisons than anywhere. And I thought, could you imagine being from Nova Scotia or Finland and Norway, and that is your biggest product is salmon, and then all of a sudden have an article on YouTube that says that your fish is poisonous? So I had to read on. By the way, if you've just tuned in, my name is Dr. Tread Rissacker. You're listening to the Slim Body Laser Spa. I do laser body sculpting, spot fat reduction, laser assisted weight loss. It's 3 times a week for 3 weeks. You can lose 6 to 9 inches, easy, laying on your back, listening to music. I have free consultations. We have a $49 Discovery Day. If you want to come check it out, I'm on East Ocean Boulevard, right across from the Fresh Market. Give us a call. Go online. We can set you up. All right. So these salmon, which I love, I had to read this article. So as I go into it, I'm reading about the salmon. And what's happening is the demand for salmon is so strong that they're farming it now. They're not catching them wild. Wild salmon that you catch in the rivers do not have the toxins that the ones do that live in these pens. They have these farms. They appear to be very clean. The water up in Norway and the fords, they call them, where they have these huge salmon farms, they have a lot of tidal flow. They have very clean water that comes through there. But the salmon are being fed grains and like fish food. And then when they poop, it goes down into the other salmon, and they're not getting enough flow to get rid of all toxins. And since salmon hold a lot of body fat naturally as a fish, they have a lot of body fat, they're more susceptible to store these persistent organic compounds, just like you and me. They have more fat compared to a mahi or compared to a wahoo. Now, there are fish that do carry a lot of fat, tunas, swordfish, and everybody knows, a swordfish, a big swordfish can have a lot of mercury in it. And when you catch a swordfish here in the South Florida, there's a person that will come over and take a core sample and give you an idea of how much toxins they have. And the reason why is poisons are persistent. It's the persistent exposure in small amounts over time to somebody that has body fat or a creature, and they will accumulate the toxins within their body fat. I think I'm being pretty clear on this, okay? So, it made me realize, so I went on and I looked at persistent organic compounds. I Googled that, and it came up with an incredible website and an alert by the European Union, EU, about these 20 persistent organic compounds. They call them POCs, and what they are and where they're located and how you get them. And it was a listing of common household items, of food additives, of course, the things you would avoid, like petroleum and fuel and smog. But there's a lot of this stuff that's in things we use every day that we don't know about. And in the EU, they're required to put on the label of that product that it contains one of these 20 banned persistent organic compounds. We don't do that in America. No, we don't. So I was watching a show on YouTube, and it was called Stinked, like to smell. And so I'm like, all right, what's this about? I click on it. It's a documentary about a dad whose kids, he had ordered online clothing from the Justice Clothing Company. You ever heard of Justice Clothing? I don't have kids. I'm not aware of it. But if you had a kid and they've been online and they shop from Amazon, believe me, they buy clothing from Justice. It's a brand and it's super popular and you get it online. So he buys an outfit. I think it's a sleepy wear for these kids. And it comes to him in a package, in plastic package. When he opens up the package, he said the smell of formaldehyde was so strong that it burned his eyes. And he put his face in it and he smelled it. And he's like, I got to find out what's in this. I can't put this on my children. He thought. Now, unfortunately, he lost his wife to breast cancer in her 30s. And the type of breast cancer she's had was a strong suspicion it had something to do with her job because she was worked in a toxic environment. I don't know the exact job she had, but when she had gotten stricken with breast cancer in her early 30s and then passed away and left him as a father with 2 daughters, and he was very aware now of getting rid of all the toxins in his environment, because there's a lot of people that believe that cancer can come from toxins, that you're exposed to these poisons. I mean, it has it right on the packages: carcinogenic cigarettes, certain foods, certain metals cause cancer. So this is not news, shouldn't be news to anybody. So he was aware of this. And when he got a whiff of that package and he smelled that formaldehyde, he couldn't put it on his kids. So he calls up Justice, tells them, what's in this package? You sent this clothing to my kid. I don't know what it is, what's in it. How can I put this on them? And you know what Justice Clothing said? We don't have to tell you about that process. In other words, it's considered a small dosage of something to preserve and to maintain like the integrity of the clothing. It's called a scent. And they're not required by law to tell you what it is or how much is in it. It's considered a fragrance. So he was not happy. And he's like, you're not even going to tell me? Well, I'm not going to buy your products, obviously. And then he went on to find out more about this secret cabal within manufacturers where they do not have to tell you if something is labeled as a fragrance or something that is to manage stability of a product, like so the fibers don't break down. They do not, and you apply it on your body, they do not have to tell you if it's a carcinogen or not. They don't have to tell you what it is. So Febreze, the smell of soaps, the special smell of Tide, the smell of Irish Spring. These are fragrances that are protected, that the manufacturer does not have to divulge what's in it. And they find out that most of them have carcinogenic toxins within these fragrances. So he did a documentary on this. It's called Stink, Stinked, Stinked. Highly recommend you watch it. You want to understand how you're slowly being poisoned over time. This is a great documentary that is, I think it's important because you have your little child and you don't want to put them in, the number one poison that kids get? Flame retardant in their clothing. We have laws in America that require children's clothing to be soaked in flame retardant. So if they get a fire somewhere in the house, they won't die from the fire. The bedding, the mattress, soaked in flame retardant. The couches, soaked in flame retardant. Okay. And so they had a show on CNN, Anderson Cooper, a couple of years back, and it was about toxic burden testing, that we are carrying a toxic burden. Now, this is the term that the doctors are using for these accumulation of these POCs, these persistent organic compounds. They're calling it a toxic burden. And you can pay to have a test to determine how much toxins you might be carrying. And there's also questionnaires that you can go online and you can answer 100 questions, such as, do you live in a house with carpet or no carpet? How often do you go outside? What type of cleaners do you use? Do you take medications, prescription drugs? Have you ever worked in agriculture? They have all of these questions. And since these exposures come from our habits and where we live and work, those questionnaires are very accurate predictor of your possible toxic exposure. Now, in the Anderson Cooper piece, which is available online on CNN, you can Google it, they tested Anderson Cooper and a family in California for these persistent compounds, and it was called Body Burden. And it took like a month or two to get all the results back. But when they did it, they found out that in the family from California, the baby who was less than 2 years old had more poisons than the one that was older than her, and even had more toxins than the mom and dad because of her size in ratio to the amount of toxin. And the main poison that little baby had was the ingredient that makes flame retardant because of the clothing and the bedding. Now, the other child had a chance to get rid of some of it, so didn't have as much, but she had toxins too, and the mom and dad had the least amount. Well, Anderson Cooper's toxic burden profile showed enormous amounts of something called DDT. Do you know what DDT is? DDT was an insecticide, an herbicide that they used to use to kill the bugs. And then what they found was it was going into this ecosystem. The birds and the fish were getting it. And then it was accumulating in fish, namely striped bass. And any fish, because of this DDT, it just gets passed along from creature to creature. Anderson Cooper grew up in the Hudson River Valley, and he loved to eat striped bass. He ate a lot of it, thought it was healthy. It is. But he also was poisoned by it. He had high levels of poisoning in his bloodstream from those salmon. From those striped bass. That's how long this stuff stays with us, people. And, detoxification is important. And part of what we do at the Slim Body Laser Spa is the process of, the way that you get rid of toxins. First, you got to stop putting them in the body. Become aware of it, like I've done in the last 35 minutes here. I've told you about it. I've taught you where they're coming from, and you can avoid it. Make a choice. You got to open up the door if you're working on your car. Don't run it in the garage. Stay upwind of things. Don't get downwind from cars and trucks and the smell of those toxins. Roll up your window. Get HEPA filters in your house so you're breathing in fresh air, or get fresh air. Get away from the cities. Move to the country. So those are ways you can avoid it. One of the issues is, how do you get it out once you've had it? And this is very complicated. So detoxification, one easy way to detoxify is increase your water intake. Drink more fresh water. Water is a solvent. It's soluble, and it helps to flush out the kidneys. It helps to get rid of poisons and toxins. However, the petroleum-based toxins are very hard to get out because they don't mix with water, and they store in the fatty tissue. So one thing that people do is they do juicing. Juice fasting, doing a juice made to detoxify is the way that you clean out the body. We call it, it's called an inner clean diet. I do it at the office. It's a 6-day feast of fruits and vegetables, and you make this vegetable broth, and then you drink that, no meat, no proteins, for that 6 days. And those juices and the vegetable broth cleans your insides out because it pushes out the toxins, but it still doesn't handle the toxins in your fat. Now, one of the ways they get rid of toxins in the fat is you have to dislodge them. They're happy locked in with the fat. As you start to lose fat from eating less, those toxins now have to go somewhere because they're no longer protected. So there's certain herbs and supplements that you can take to help suck out and to grab those toxins when they're available, and then you carry them out through the urine. We have a product at the spa called Detox 2. It's from Wonder Labs, and there's 6 different herbs in it: cascara, ginger, cayenne, Irish moss, I think, and one other one. And so all of our clients that go through the Slim Body Spa will take these supplements at the beginning of the program and every day until the end of the program. Now, because these poisons are tied up in your fat, you need something to get rid of them, to dislodge them. So infrared saunas, infrared lasers like we use to get rid of the fat, red light, anything that brings light and circulation to the surface into the fatty tissue is going to dislodge some of those toxins. And then what happens is you can then use something called whole body vibration. Now, this is a device you stand on that moves you really quick up and down. You can see me shaking here. A lot of you know about whole body vibration today than they did 10 years ago. And this increases your lymphatic flow. It improves your circulation. And that will dislodge some of those petroleum-based toxins. And as long as you're taking your supplements, these herbs, you will help get rid of even more toxins through this mechanism. Infrared on the skin, whole body vibration to get it going, and then you take your supplements, and when those toxins are kicked into the bloodstream by the vibration plate, you'll get rid of some of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The other way you can get rid of these toxins, and it gets harder because heavy metals are really hard to get rid of, and they also cause plaquing of your arteries. So chelation is a technique that they use in medicine, and they use oral chelation. These are pills and supplements you take orally through your mouth. And then the other way is they chelate with a drip, with an IV drip. Now, my dad did the chelation because of his heart disease, and he wanted to open up his arteries. So some people do it to help with arterial plaquing, but that has to be done under medical supervision in an MD's office, not at the Slim Body Laser Spa. Now, there is a doctor in the area that does that work, and his name is Dr. Charles Ahner, Ahner. He's located in Rio, right by the Rio Cutoff Road. He just has a new place there. His name is Dr. Ahner, and he does chelation, and he can do more medically involved detoxification if you've really been exposed to paints or poisons. We can also get exposed to toxins from our implants, by the way. These metal implants, some people find are toxic, and they need help. All right, I think I went over a lot. If you want more information, Google it, look it up, send me an email. I can send you some addresses of people. Dr. Ahner is always available for consultations. He's over in, like I said, over in Rio. It's Ahner. And my name is Dr. Tread Rissacker. I'm the doctor and the owner at the Slim Body Laser Spa. You can lose 3 to 9 inches of stubborn fat while you lie on your back and listen to music, and you can detoxify at the same time. So we have free consultations. We have openings today, all this week. If you want to try it one time and you haven't been there before, you can try a $49 Discovery Day visit. My phone number is 772-223-5885. Go on your little Siri phone and say Dr. Tread, and you'll get my phone number. All right? Thank you so much. We will see you soon. And remember to be healthy and stay healthy.